Hello, welcome back to the stream. Get the camera on here, ideally. Okay, hello. Yeah, back on stream, and welcome back anyone who's been following along. Last week we did a UI stream on Clarobscure's Splash Out UI, which is pretty cool. It's a piece of, I guess, meta UI. It's not really part of the game world. It's really part of the UI, but it's also in 3D space. And this week we're going to look at Diegetic UI. So we're looking at Astroneer. Let's take a look at the task list. So for Astroneer, we have a backpack that represents your inventory, and it is physically based. So there's these items in the world that you can pick up with your mouse cursor and move them around. And then you can slot them into your backpack. You can use some hotkeys to expedite that, to make that a little bit easier, quicker. And so what we're going to do is we're going to create those inventory slots. They can contain an item, and it animates when an item comes inbound, and you can drop them back into the world. We're going to do clickable physical items. So these little cubes, I guess, in the world, or cylinders or something that I'll work with to represent items at a base idea. They're physics, and you can pick them up, move them around, you can slot them in, you can hold the shift key to click to throw them into your backpack if there's an available slot. And so there's the quality of life interactions involved there as well. So without further ado, let's get started, and hopefully this won't take too long. So I've got a episode 2 set up here. We've got an episode 2 character. It's got nothing really in it. Let's pop it open. So it's the basic template character from Unreal for third person, and it's got some basic controls. So let's have a look at those. We've got, let's see if I can move this window. Apparently I cannot move the window. Something is taking my mouse control. Let's do new editor window. Okay, apparently I can't use my mouse. My mouse is gone. As soon as I hit play. So that's what I would say fairly annoying from the get-go. We don't have any special herd player controller or anything like that, so this is straight up just annoying. Okay, so, well, let's get that mouse shown, because we know we need the mouse. So show mouse cursor. We tick this context sensitive, we can look at all classes. That gives us this. We can drag off of this, click that back on, we'll get the player controller. Okay. Oh, need to tick the box. So show mouse cursor. There we go. So now when we right click, we actually move the camera. We are locked to the edges of the screen. Let's set up the game mode. So I think it's just set input game. Let's go game and UI. I mean, there is no UI, so set game only. There we go. So now we can actually twist all the way, and we have our mouse cursor moving around the screen, which is very nice. One thing I'd like to do to get started is actually just spruce up this mouse cursor. So wherever we move our mouse, we have like a nice element following our mouse. And I have some reference videos of this. Let me go check my reference videos here. Pop open my videos channel. Very simple. Let's make a blueprint for this. So, blueprint, we'll go BP actor. So BP underscore mouse cursor, I suppose we'll call it. This object's going to follow our mouse. So we'll create, first off, we'll create a material. I think what might be best is a decal. So we'll create m underscore decal underscore mouse cursor. Jump in here and we'll make this a deferred decal that is translucent. We'll use a radial gradient exponential with some UVs. What we're creating is we're creating a circle, just a circle. We're just creating a circle with a hole in the middle. There are better ways to do this with UV math that I've shown in other videos, but today I'm going to do the simple version. So the simple version is a little bit more expensive, like the quicker version I should say. It's a little bit easier to do. So we're going to have some radius in here, we're going to have some density. We'll actually convert these to parameters as well. We'll name these in a second. So this is just rad1 and dense1, okie dokie, and rad2 and dense2. We basically minus one from the other, so for this radius, let's go emissive. Let's go like this. Let's get a 1 and 1 in here. Okay, so that's not what we want. Let's go for 10 density and 0.5 on the size. Okay, so now we have a circle. And what we want to do is we want to minus this one from the other one. So it's this subtract this. So what you'll see is this is a small circle, this is a big circle. If I minus one from the other, I'll get a ring. And so that will do us for the beginning of that decal. So let's get a decal in here in our little blueprint that we made and put that material on it. In fact, let's make a material instance. Make sure it's got the decal keyword in there. Oh. Okay, so everything should be going smoothly on the stream side, so that's good. Just double check. But today I'm going to do the sim. Yeah. Okay, so let's get the material instance in here. Let's face this upwards, turn our rotation snap on. Let's put this in the world. See how big it is. It is humongous, and so we want it to be about the size of one of these squares. So let's pop this out, play with the scale of this asset. So we've got decal size here, we'll go 32. That's quite nice, that'll move around with our mouse. It's still a little bit large, so let's go 60. So I like that, that's nice. And to give it some depth, we're going to add a sphere. Look at the viewport here. Scale this right down. Our decal size is here. Our sphere is just going to be lifted up a little. Let's just give it some scale. Add a plain white material to this, so we'll go m underscore color. Go color base, we'll go color emissive. In fact, what we'll do is we'll do a scalar for emissive. Multiply this color here. Go. In fact, we know this is going to be emissive. So let's just plug this directly into emissive. It's unlit. Let's call this color. Make this one white. Like that. Let's make a instance, so mi_color_white. Pop that onto the sphere here. Back in our map, we can see now we've got this little sphere that will move around with our cursor. So now let's get this actually moving with our cursor. So the way I'm going to do this is create a function, init mouse cursor. Move a couple of things. Spawn an actor from class. It's going to be that mouse cursor that we just made. Convert that to a variable. Doesn't really matter where, so I'm just going to use a 2 vector, which just is a nice small way of setting this up. We're going to always spawn. And then on tick, event tick, we're going to update mouse cursor. As long as this mouse cursor is valid, we will get the player controller, get the hit under cursor, break this. As long as there is something that gets hit, we will set the actor location to this location. But another thing that I want to do is make sure that if I'm aiming up a wall, that either it aligns or maybe it just disappears. Let's have a look. So what I'm going to do is if the dot product, that circle is just for facing downwards, I'm going to get rid of the circle when we're on a non-flat surface. So let's take a look at creating a function which is just set on ground. Yes. And we'll have a little boolean for this, on ground. So a variable. This is not equal to on ground. Then we will update variable. And depending on this, we'll set the decals visibility. Set visibility to whether we're on the ground. That'll be nice. And we'll also probably move this sphere. So if I'm touching a wall, I want that sphere to actually pop off the wall. So I need the vector of... I'll tell you what, let's create another function. Set hit vector. This will be the, or set hit normal, I guess. This will be the normal of the hit, and this sphere will set the relative location to whatever I did here, which is 8 units. And we'll set this. So we'll multiply this by a float, and it will basically float off the wall by 8 units in the direction that we're hitting. So now that we have those two functions set up, what we can do is we can check if we're hitting the wall or a floor. So what's the dot product to upwards? And I've described dot products in other videos, but basically it's a direction test. And so it's 1 if we're facing direction, 0 if we're planar or perpendicular, and -1 if we're opposite. And so as long as this is more than or equal to, I suppose, say 5, then what we can do is take this mouse cursor and set ground. We'll move the location first, then we'll set the ground variable, and then we'll also set that normal. That should be everything, and now we should be able to go and hit play. I don't have my mouse, so classic, absolutely classic. A, I didn't call update mouse cursor, and B, I didn't actually initialize the mouse. So let's edit that mouse cursor here. That's nice. One thing I don't like about this is it's snapping. And it has collision. So let's remove the collision on that. Okay. Got a nice mouse cursor going on. I don't like that it is snapping, so let's smooth that out a bit. So this set relative location, what we can do is do an interp 2. We can get the relative location of the existing sphere, like where it is. Get the world delta settings here, and we'll just move it at a rate of say 10. We'll see how that looks. Now it's no longer snapping, which is nice. We also have a depth on the decal that I'm not keen on. I managed to minimize that window so small. Go to the viewport. This decal here. Yeah, so the depth I want to be like 4. Oh, okay, so maybe it's X. I don't want it to be too deep. That does break it here. Maybe we could align the decal to the surface as well. That world rotation. We'll take the hit normal. If we plug this in, it will actually give us a node called from X vector, so it gets the forward of that vector. That's a little bit nicer. Yep, I'm okay with that. So that feels pretty neat. It does cast a shadow though. Let's not do that either. A couple of other things that we could do is affecting distance fields or indirect lighting. We could turn off navigation. We would want to turn tick off on all of these components and this actor, because it just doesn't need to tick, although the interp may need to tick. That's good. Okay, so now we've got this cool little mouse cursor. So it's a nice little win. Let's move on to the slots. Close this stuff down. Okay, so I'm going to make a new, I'm going to start foldering some of this stuff up, so we'll call it core, and we'll move some of the core assets over here. We will create a new folder for mouse cursor. Move everything we just made in there. Well, actually, we won't move color, but we'll move the mouse cursor elements, and then we'll do shed. So this material here is fairly common. Okay. Next up, we'll make a folder for inventory. And a folder for slots. Actually, we won't make a folder. We'll just do a blueprint. Because we're not going to have too many blueprints. So we'll have BP underscore slot. What I would like to do is, generally, if I was working on a project, this would be an abstract class and it would contain the functionality, and then you could subclass from this to give it a look and feel. So you can have slots that look different, but they all behave in this way. So that's precisely what we're going to do. We're going to go to class settings. We're going to create an abstract class. And the common element of this slot is that it can be recognized by the mouse when you hover over it. So we'll create a box collision. This will be when we're holding an item. If we hover over this box, the behaviors will happen, basically. So it'll snap to this. Okay, so next up, what do we have? We have a slot. Let's start off by creating our first child class. So slot, and we'll just call this. This is the simplest representation. We'll do a cube. Let's see how big these are. One thing I want to make sure is that it actually starts at 0 and that the cube actually lives above that. This is a pretty big slot for a backpack. If I was to walk around the scene right now, you'd see that that is a bit massive. We need it to be around 1/5 of that size. But for usability, we want this cube to be nice and easy to touch. We'll do that. We'll make sure that this cube is collisions off as well. No collision on that cube there. Okay, so let's make a couple of slots. So next, we at least need to print that our mouse is over this slot. Let's take a look at that update. We have the ability to hit on a trace channel for visibility in cameras, and so what I'm going to do is go to the project settings and create a new trace channel. So under collision, we have trace channels here. We'll do a new one, and we'll call this inventory. It's ignored by default. And for this slot here, we'll go and customize the collision. We won't overlap anything, but we will block on the inventory trace channel. Back in the third-person character thing, might be a place to do this, is we will do inventory trace. Let's call it inventory trace. Get this, go to our inventory trace. we will print the name of that just for debugging. The key will be just the slot. All this on tick. You can see on the left I'm getting different backpack slots here. Highlighting. Might actually be a little bit too small. It may be a little bit too small. Grow them just a smidge. So we've got our print in the top left that tells us that we're hovering something. So the next thing that we'll need is an item. So let's go an actor class BP_item. It's a bit too generic of a name, I suppose. So we'll call it. It's fine. It's fine. We're not going to worry too much. Okay, so again, for this, it's going to be an abstract class that has behavior. So it just means that we can cast to it cheaply, which is nice. Come in here and we will create a child class of this. And we'll just call this like example. Let's add a cylinder to this so it's obvious what it is. What I want to make sure is that the root is always at the bottom. So I'm just going to lift this up. And that root is down there. And that's how we're going to snap it to another object. So back in our map, let's drop a few of these down. Now, when we click on this object, we want it to follow our mouse cursor. So let's do that first. You can make objects clickable. There's a setting for that. Clicked here. Ah, interesting. Event clicked. Event on actor clicked. So let's just print that. Hello. That's not working. So I think in here we can allow click events somewhere. Oh, it's in the player controller, sorry. So let's make a player controller. Blueprint, player controller, BP_PC episode 02. And let's just do click events, enable click events here. The default click trace channel is visibility. So I think what we want is inventory. Although all of these things are technically also visible, they would be. Let's make sure they're all actually also visible. I guess. One thing that I should have done is configured a collision for this item that can be separate to the mesh concept, but that's okay. It's something that you could do yourself if you wanted. So in here, this is block all dynamic. We're going to make this custom. It does block in visibility. Just deciding how I want this to work. So I don't want it to block the inventory channel. Well, I should have called that the slot channel. In fact, maybe I'll go do that. The point being is that when I'm holding an item, I don't want it to block the trace. But I would disable the collision whilst this item is being moved, so that might be actually fine. Let's have a look at this. So we've got, it blocks literally everything, which is hilarious. When it's slotted, it's not going to interact either. Let's just take a look back at our tasks. we've started the slots, we've started the physical items, and we've started the quality of life stuff. So let's keep going. So now this item should be able to get clicked. If I was to have chosen my player controller here. So player controller episode 2. That only happens if we double click, which is not ideal. There's no collision on the little ball that I have on my mouse cursor either, so it's not that. Do a little bit of debugging. Go. U5 on click requires double clicks to trigger. Found a thread that covers this that no longer exists, so it's not ideal. Someone says in the project settings you can try touch. Try turning it off, yeah. You guys can see, I'm just looking through these things. Steam capture mouse down on input mode to false. Yes, I remember this. What we can do now that we have a player controller as well is I do prefer putting the setup mouse functions like in there. So on begin play here, we'll do this to self. Let viewport capture mouse. I guess just capture permanently. Okay. We're over here. Wondering if I even need to show my mouse anymore. It does immediately start taking control of the camera again, so what we need to do is there's some input problems going on where you have these look controls happening. Have motor variable can look is true whilst the mouse button is down, false while it's not down. So that'll start us off there. And then secondly, what I am thinking is we just don't show the mouse cursor because we actually have an element that follows the mouse cursor. And now we're actually getting a click on first click. So I think what was happening was because the mouse was shown that it was like consuming the input in some way. So now we can actually click these objects, which means whilst I've clicked on them, we will do something, and then I think it's like an on released, yeah, event released. We'll do buy for that one. This is similar inputs that you would use for a game like Honey Pop Studio or an RTS, let's say. I say Honey Pop Studio because my wife wanted me to make a game similar to that once. So we've got down, release, down, release. It's interesting. We're able to click, move the mouse, release, and it say buy. But that's fine because we're only going to trigger it on the one that's held. So let's create some functions. Set held. So this is not equal to being held. Then we can hold it. And what this will do is it will attach it to our mouse as we move our mouse around. Do that on tick, so it's just update position. If we're held, we're going to move around with the mouse at a certain distance into the scene. So we're going to get the camera manager, I think. Oh no, we'll get the player controller. And we'll get their mouse, or we'll convert mouse to world. Mouse location to world space. So that gives us sort of a location at the camera's position and a direction where the mouse is heading. So we can use that for a really nice way to pick these objects up and have them sort of hover towards the camera. So we'll do a line trace. Channel, starting where that position was and moving into the world direction by, we'll just go with some arbitrary number for now, 500. Trace in that direction. If we don't get a hit, then we'll be, we're going to hold a variable here called target location. So if there's no hit, the target location is the end of that trace. If there is a hit, then the target location will be this location modified, because we have an item that's like hovering, right? So we'll get a hit, say, on a surface, but we want to come off that surface a little bit. So we use the normal for that, and we'll multiply that normal by maybe 50 units. This might be configurable per item, depending on the size of it. And with that target location, we've got the update position here. So yeah, we will move all of this into a comment called set target location. This will be insert the location of the actor. So we're going to smoothly move towards the target location. So get actor location. We'll do an interp here. From here to the target location with some world delta seconds and with a speed, and we'll call it 50 for now. Back in that graph, we should have a tick event here, so that's update position. We can set held to true, and we can set held to false. We can't do, yeah, this won't do anything on anything else. Okay, so whilst we're held, what do? We set actor collision to false, and if we're not held, We'll disable this. Okay, I'm going to put in here unless it's slotted, because if you're not slotted, we do want collision. If we're slotted, then we don't want collision. But yeah, because it will sort of mess things up. So if we're held, disable the collision. Disable the collision if held. Secondly is like enable collision if not slotted. Another thing that we want to do for these items is actually enable physics on them. And in order to enable physics on them and actually have them follow the location, we actually need a mesh component. So we use a static mesh. We need a mesh component as the root, which means that the slot location for this is also actually variable. So we'll create a scene component for the we call it a slot anchor. Come back to our item test. We'll take the cylinder that we made, put that into the root here. Our viewport, we're just like duplicating over some data now. 0.25. Oh, this is interesting because when it spots, it's not going to be the right. I'm not going to worry about this actually. Let's just do it how I was doing it before. All that. Compile this. This is fine. One of the issues basically is when you enable physics on this actor, it'll actually move away from the root of the actor, but we can always make the actual actor update its position. This is only a problem in a replicated environment because if you've got relevancy, then your physical object's going to move further away from your replicated actor and eventually you won't see the physical object. That's okay, let's get back to where we were. So we can hold, we can unhold, and we can update the position. Let's see what that's doing. It's doing nothing. Let's print. Select. Hold. So we've got that going on there. So we are getting a hold. Is this item ticking? It is ticking. Date position. As long as we're held. Oh, right. I set the target location, but I never actually set the actual location. Set the actual location, please. Do this new variable. Okay. Now we're able to move this around. Noticed something a little odd. Well, that doesn't necessarily make sense. The mouse is actually behind. I can't really see it. The mouse is behind this object. We're gonna make this trace like a decent length. I think it's gonna make life a little bit more interesting here. There we go. Pops off the surface like we were saying. And so what we want next is that when we trace one of these objects, that it actually snaps to that object. So what we can do with that is in the item, whilst we're, or before even we set the target location here, set target location, let's say in world. Then what we could do is we could actually branch and ask if there is a hit on this inventory channel. There is a hit. Then we'll do a target location that is equal to this actor's location. We'll also need a target rotation as well, so we might actually change this to target transform, maybe. Then we can do a transform interpolation instead of just location. But maybe it's easier to do target rotation, and we can control them a little bit differently. So we'll get a rotator here. This target rotation is going to be based on the X of this. This is the slot location rotation, and this is just like if we don't hit a slot, then we're moving it around in world space. So we'll move these around, add some reroute nodes to clean this up. Okay. And then secondly, we're going to move this. We're also going to set active rotation. And we're going to... That's interesting. Oh, I shouldn't be doing that. I should be doing this. Then here we have an R interp 2. Target is this, and get an active rotation for our current, and then same again. We've got the delta seconds, and maybe we'll go with 10 again on here. The target rotation for the actor when it's hitting the world, I kind of just want it to be 0. I don't really want it to rotate in any particular way. One thing I want to do with the backpack slot is turn the collision off entirely on. Oh, it is off. Wonderful. And it's blocking visibility there, so let's get rid of visibility on that. It's not doing exactly what I wanted. Firstly, it's rotating in funny ways. And secondly, it's not like really snapping to it. It is picking up that the slot is being hovered. Click. Click. So that's cool. And then when I click again, I want it to actually connect. So it's rather interesting. It is using the X, so maybe first issue is that we should use rot from Z. Are we doing the right thing? Get active rotation, target rotation. If I take this thing's rotation, and I have this, they're just the same rotation. Maybe I shouldn't. Yeah, I shouldn't be using the hit because the hit might be any of these 4 faces. I think that's the issue. I should definitely just be using the hit actor's rotation. So we assume the same rotation as the hit actor, and we assume, see, this is the location of the hit as well, so we actually want actor location for that as well. That might not be ideal either. We might need to like configure some sort of anchoring. So the interps are a little bit fast. Let's slow them down. One thing I've noticed with the slot is that because this is quite high, it's clipping into the other ones. This is cool. They make more like the reference. So we'll get 2 more of these. Move these all a little bit closer. Should be able to do now is to do anything we want with these. Could have 2 backpacks going on. What we'll need as well is just a little cube as a backing for these. Okay. Do that. Cool. It shouldn't matter what the orientation is, we'll always get like a nice representative map. Yep, that's pretty cool. Next thing is to click again and actually release it. So, in order to do that, I think it's actually just on release. Yeah, so when I release the mouse, because it's not necessarily true, well, my mouse isn't really hitting it anymore, I suppose. Yeah, so we've got a little bit of an issue where in the event graph we use the on actor click release in order to determine that we should release that actor, but the actor's moved away from the mouse, so we can't actually release the mouse on the actor. But what we can do is use left mouse button, release, and in order to allow input on this actor, we would say here is get player controller, enable input, and disable input. When it's held, we enable the input, which means that we can release the mouse button. And of course, this just floats right now, but we'll turn physics on soon. So we can actually snap these in, we can move these to another actor or another slot. And then because the collision is disabled, if this was actually on a backpack, we would be able to run around, and we'll do the actual backpack part shortly. Next up, I want to enable physics when I'm not holding the IM. What we'll want to do is on held and on dropped. And additionally, when we're updating the position, we're going to want to hold the variable for in slot. So that we know whether we're in a slot or not. Like hovering a slot. So the reason for set held, on held, or on dropped is because we want to be able to override it in our children to enable and disable physics on specific elements. Doing that in every single child class would be horrible. But what this allows us to do is react to a specific event. Because this function setHeld has a condition in it and then does something, we don't have the ability to overwrite that in children very easily. We'd have to have the same code again because there's no return value. But we'll do it like this. This allows us to react to certain events actually occurring. Okay. But also, I do want to enable physics on this cylinder here. We have to assume that there are lots of potential elements underneath, so we're actually just going to tag this with tag physics. And that tells us that this is the thing that we want to enable physics on, which means that in the future, if you were to make a bunch of items and some of them had multiple static meshes in, it's going to work fine. Instead of, for example, which was another option, was to get all components of class static and then batch like physics them, which could break a lot of things. That would not be great. So what we do instead is get components with tag. Tag is this, and it's always going to be a primitive. And for each of those, we set simulate physics to true. We would also want to cache a key map of their original transforms as well. Because when this item is clicked again in future, the mesh, we need to have that actor location in the right place when we reattach the physical component that was bouncing around back onto the actor. The other option is to just make a static mesh as the root, but if we use Astroneer as an example, that's not how their game is. It's a little bit more scalable in the sense that it can bounce around physically, but inside that object that's moving around is actually graphical elements. And so one way to do this is to have a collider as the base, and the collider can have any form, which means it would be a static. It would be a hidden static that just represents the collision. So let's do that. Let's actually do that. We'll make a static mesh here, and we'll just call this collider. We'll call it like collider root. The reason for this is so that when we enable physics on this, it actually moves the whole actor because it is the root of the actor. And then in our item test, we've got this collider root, which in this case, we're going to be using a cylinder. You can see that that cylinder is massive, and we don't want to edit the properties here. So what we could do, let's go back to our map, create a cylinder. Now we need to make like some collision for our objects, but that's not too crazy. It makes it a lot more scalable. So 0.25, 0.25, 0.3. Typically these will be quite uniform anyway. So you'll have a couple of different types of items that can slot in here. You'll have like square collidables that bounce around in a fashion that's of a square. You'll have things that are cylinders, for example, if we're basing it off of the original media, and then of course you can have any collider that you would want. So we've got this. One thing that we did in the original is we actually moved the collider up as well. So So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the modeling tool. I'm going to get the X form. And I'm going to edit the pivot and just move it down. Like this. Of course, just you cannot modify the inbuilt engine asset, of course. That makes total sense. So let's move this to our episode 2 inventory. And we'll call this SM cylinder collider. We'll replace this, and then we will edit the pivot again. Set that, and we'll also want to bake the X form as well. We actually want to because if I drop another one in, it's just going to be huge again. So I need to bake in the transform there. So accept the transform. No, this one, please. Bake that transform. Accept. So you'll see now this one actually changed size as well. Cool. So quick example of a collider route setup. So we now have a cylinder collider that we can use, and we're going to make this hidden in game. In fact, we're just going to make this not visible. And I think, you know, the cylinder underneath it doesn't want to have any collision. Collision on there. The root wants to have a custom collision, and it shouldn't block inventory, so that's fine. Then in our graph, we actually had like in the item base class, abstract class, that you can't. So the thing about an abstract class, by the way, if anyone's wondering, is you can't drop this into the world. This is not a thing. These children are a thing. And the nice thing about that is these are like essentially mutable or lightweight. If we right click on this and actually look at the size map, you'll notice it's like 25 kilobytes. Whereas we look at the art-based asset and we start having all these assets in here. Now when you're casting and you're loading into memory assets of a certain type, that matters a lot. So if you're using exclusively Blueprint, this mimics the concept of having a C++ class to some degree. So we've got our collision cylinder, we've got that stuff set up. Let's see how we're doing. So we can click it and let go, and it doesn't turn into physics yet, but that's what we're going to do right now. So instead of doing this weird for loop stuff, we're just going to get the collider route and we're going to enable collision on simulation on this. So the whole reason for this like past 10 minutes of reorganizing the structure here is so that if I have an actor and I have a static mesh on it, and then I go find that static mesh and I enable physics, that object's going to fall away, but the actor is actually going to stay here. Now when I go and pick up this mesh again in the future, and we're currently working with actor rotation and location, I'd have to move the actors, like the actor, back over here and then attach the mesh back to it. And in the process of doing both those things, there's definitely going to be some frames where the whole actor moves, because it's still like part of the actor, so the whole actor is going to move and then it's going to snap. So you'll see these weird glitches. Additionally, it's like it's more curation. As a content developer, you've got to go through, oh, I forgot to tag the physics tag on the asset, so we don't want that either. And in fact, we don't need this tag anymore. So I've got these on dropped and on held functions. When it's dropped, it gets simulated. When it's held, it's no longer simulated. It just fell through the world. It's hilarious. Oh, right, yeah. So on dropped. Yeah, well, actor collision should have been re-enabled on drop. Set actor enable collision. True. Let's check out. It's blocking on everything. It's world dynamic. There's no reason. There's no reason for this. On drop. Actor enable collision. Disable input, simulate physics. I can move it around. I could drop it, and it just goes. Oh, what's going on there? Let's show collision. Would you look at that? We're not actually moving the root. Something weird's going on there. This cylinder is not colliding. This root is colliding. In the item's code in update position, we move the whole actor. If we look at show collision in the viewport, maybe I could type it correctly. Okay, it's just Alt-C. We've got some weird offsets going on. So let's just replace all of these. Okay, that's really bizarre. Viewport. Okay. For anyone joining late, the reason I have two different meshes is so that the visual mesh can be, it could be a mesh, it could be a skeletal mesh, it could be a particle system, it could be anything, but the actual collider root allows it to bounce around the world. Although apparently there's some sort of weird... Oh, I think I know what it is. It's my asset. So if I open this asset that I moved and changed, and I go and take a look at the simple collision for this, you'll notice it's way off. So let's just destroy it, and then go and add just some sort of, let's do auto convex. We can go lit wireframe to check that convex collision. And it's this green one here. So it's nice, but we could go to like 12 hole. 32 maybe. Yeah, so it just gives it a little bit more. And so that should be fixed now. Cool. Go back to our item. We can make sure that this visibility is off. We can turn off the tick on some of these actors because we don't need them to tick. I don't really want them to affect navigation or any other things as well. In the item, these items don't need to tick, and this component doesn't need to tick. And so this is all just in the idea of ensuring that it's a little bit more performant. Okay, so next up we have the idea that when we are holding it and we're doing these interps that we may need the tick, but let's have a look and see if we do. Yeah, so, well, in fact, I know we need the tick because this function is on tick. So when it's held, we would set actor tick enabled. And when it's dropped, we would disable that tick. So this means that only ever one item in the world is going to be ticking. One thing I've noticed is it wasn't really retaining the velocity of the flick. But sometimes it does. So this is cool anyway, and then we can drop it on here, except now we have we did have that working. So next thing is when it's dropped, if it's in slot, then we want to do one thing, and if it's not, then we want to enable physics. And otherwise we want to lock it in. So let's when we drop it onto the slot, in fact, we'll call this target slot. We'll have this as a BP slot. This will be it. Basically, if this is valid. And this could just be, it could be an actor for now. Basically, what I don't want to do is on tick be casting to slot. So what we could do is when we drop, we could actually test. Actually, yeah, let's do it this way. So instead of caching this here and having to cast it on tick, which would be horrible, we're instead going to say when you release, set the target slot. If there is a valid hit actor on the inventory slot channel, then we're going to cast that to a slot. And we're going to set that up as our slot. And then don't forget, when we hold this item again, the slot would become null. So we need to make sure that that is no longer valid. Although it won't necessarily matter in this case, because when we drop, we check again anyway. Yeah, so that becomes the slot. So that's cool. Let's just move this around. Okay. So if there is a valid hit on the slot channel, that's the slot that we're going to use. We're also going to need to check if a slot has an item, because once there's multiple items, I could potentially slot like multiple assets onto one. So we'll handle that in a moment as well. We're getting close to the end here. We're almost at an hour and a half, so I would like to finish it and then move on to another project, another prototype. So we've got the slot. Let's go to the slot and add slotted item as a variable. Function set slotted. I'm not going to finish by past either. I'm going to definitely have another half an hour on doing all the quality of life, like keybinds that were part of the tasks. So we've got the inventory slots, we've got the clickable physics items that could be interacted with, and then we're going to do all the quality of life interactions as well. So when we drop this into a slot, we're going to set slotted item to self. We're going to disable the collision. Of the item, which means you would need to click the slot to pull the item back out. I think collision would be enabled, but we would want to disable everything because we don't want to have an actor slotted to us that has collision. It's going to mess with our movement. But we do want to be able to hit that actor. And maybe not. And maybe not actually. Let's just disable it. And we will click the slot. We will click the slot. What we'll have in here is event clicked. Do a branch. What we'll do rather, a slotted item. if the slotted item is valid, then we'll set held. Great. And so now that we'll pick it back up again. The other things that we want to do, we want to definitely not have simulated physics, which it wouldn't have had. We don't want it to tick anymore. We always want to disable input on a dropped. We'll move that before all the other code, because we know any time that we release this, we do not want it. Let's have a look where we're at now. Then I can pick that back up. No. BP slot. Click. How do I enable click? I'm not going to click on that, but I am going to click on that one. I can't remember how I did this in the first place. BP item is like click. That's settings, click. That's the box, click. And then mouse events. Mouse event. Like a enable click event or something. How did it work in the first time? Oh, I wonder if it's. Oh, yeah. Oh, right. Okay. So I think it's because. Channels. Oh no, it is. Don't tell me it requires camera channel to be true. On actor clicked. This actor can be clicked. Why can't that actor be clicked? So this is a fun test in figuring something out that I literally got working 5 seconds ago. Okay, so where are we at right now? How is this allowed to be clicked? Click. Mount. Where's the slot? Where's the slot? What was it? Nope. So this is one of those problems in Unreal. Sometimes if you come across a problem and you're like, this doesn't make sense, I've done everything the same way. When you've got these child hierarchies, you're composing and inheriting different functionalities. I went into the slot, I changed the box, I said, hey, I need this to collide on visibility here. I go to the backpack, this didn't update, it was still here like this, and because those mouse clicks are happening on the visibility channel, it didn't work. So the better thing to do in this case is actually create a collision preset for a slot, and then you never need to worry about that ever again. So let's go do that. Project settings. Let's go to collision. We'll make a new preset. This window is messed up. You need to give it a wiggle. There you go. You just need to grab the bottom and like move it up and down. Now you can see your new ones. So we'll call this we'll just call it slot. Its collision is I believe it's going to be query. It's static technically because it doesn't move. It is attached to something else that moves. And it is ignoring everything except these 2 hits. So now in here, if I close and reopen the slot to refresh the system, I can now select slot, and this is set up. And because I do have one, oh, it's already done it in the child as well, so that's cool. And now I can pick this up, I can drop it into a slot, I can pick the slot and pull out the item. It's on any. So let's make a few more of these. First bug that we'll notice, that when I get here, it hits the slot and allows me to put 2 things in one slot. And we have a place in the item where we're updating the position. And basically, if we hit a slot, then that is the target. And so what we actually need is a branch here. If it fails, we need to fall down to doing the regular trace into the world. And this condition, I'm going to use a blueprint interface for it, which is to ask if that slot is occupied. The reason for that is I don't want to cast, because this is on tick and it's updating the position. It would be casting on tick, so we spoke about that earlier. And so let's create the blueprint interface. So BPI, I mean, it's going to have to cast to the interface technically, but I guess that's cheaper than the main class. Okay, so BPI. Really call it slot, if that's who we're calling it. So we get slotted. We'll return BPI. And this will actually help us on our way in a moment to do an inventory backpack where we can shift click an item and it automatically go to our backpack. So let's implement this blueprint interface. I'll give it a category here because when I come back and I add this interface on here, it will create loose functions otherwise. So instead we have this. Okay. So now in here we go get slotted item. And if that's valid, we'll pull down, and if it's not valid, we're allowed to snap to it. And same again, we'll need this in the dropped function. So if there is a hit, we actually cast it to a slot here, but we'll get the interface here. If it has a slotted item, we're going to fall down to it, just enable physics. Which I realize now is possibly going to make it just like jar out. So let's have a look. Nope, we're good. Really get some more colors going on in here because it's starting to get difficult to read. Well, it has been difficult to read this whole time. Let's get a gray. Pop this onto the backpacks. Oh. Okay. The next thing I want to do is have some additional functionality when I use hotkeys. Let's get rid of all of these actors and actually make the backpack that goes on the character. So for that, we'll create a new blueprint class. Just call this BP and just call it backpack. We will get Manny SK, stand in here in the scene. And we'll get this backpack. It's open. Let's add a cube. Go 4.4.1. Let's go. So, how do I want this backpack to work? I want it to be longer. So, let's do that. Let's see how that looks in the world. Sure. There it goes. What I'll actually do, so I don't need this, I'm going to actually add this as a child. Backpack. Set this child actor to backpack. We'll attach it to the mesh and we'll give it a socket for kind of the spine bones. So like spine 4 is essentially closer to top. Make sure, let's have a look at how our backpack's oriented. So Z, blue, oh, correct. Make sure that the up is away from the back, basically. Forward is this, and the idea of doing it in this orientation is just so that if I ever drop the backpack on the floor, it's actually flat on the floor, and it will be represented like this when it's spawned into the world, like so. Okay, so save everything. We're now going to add a bunch of slots to this. So let's get the backpack slot. We'll just start populating these around. Why is that massive? Why would it be massive this time? Backpack slot. Is that always how big they've been? Okay, well, I guess we're changing the size of the backpack in a second. Let's make a few of these. We'll just do 3 by 3. Size this backpack, because apparently it wasn't big enough. Though I am worried now that this is going to be enormous. Yeah. Yeah. Well. Yeah. One of the things that would have been smart, and I should have done, is when I snap it, I actually like change the scale as well, so that I could scale this. When I pull the item back off, it like scales back up to whatever it should have been. So I might play with that in a while. Yeah, this thing's just massive. I'm not in size of that. Let's go 7.7. We'll try and get some scale lerping going on as well, I think. Do with this backpack. we've got a third-person character with a camera boom that triggers on the camera channel. So we'll just make sure that this is not blocking camera. Cool. So now we have a nice backpack. We do get pushed around. So we basically want to collide with nothing except visibility, which is the trace that we do our mouse trace on. So now we can drop things on. What I want to do as well is assume the scale of the target. So when an item is I'm just going to clean this up, sorry. Just got distracted because I don't like it. So what we're going to do is we're going to say slot, get slotted item. If that's not valid, we'll move forward, and otherwise we'll do this. Okay, so in update position, we also want to update the scale. So we're going to create a new target scale. By default, that's just 1 because we're not hovering a slot. In fact, we don't want to do that there either. And then down here, we'll do another V interp. So we'll get actor scale, get target scale. Set this to be a little bit slower. There's 3D scale. And when we're hovering a slot that's valid, we will assume the scale of it. All the way out, do scale 3D. So that will give us hopefully something nice. So you can see it shrinks when it goes on, and then it grows again when it comes off, which is really neat. Although I picked up the object, just found a bug. So if I go back to the slot, when I click on the slot, I hold the item, but I don't unset the slot, so it thinks it still has an item. Put that in. I can't put it in this item because it's already taken. Pick this up. I can slot it somewhere else. Do this. Can have a little bit of a runaround, although apparently that didn't work. So it's setting the location, but it's not actually attaching. Let's attach actor to self. We'll keep the world locations. All good. And then when we hold, although we should just call on held detach from any other actor, keep world. I'll sort us out there as well. Okay. Around the world. I don't want this item, so we'll just take this item off. What I'd like to do is add like outlines to all these assets. It would be like all these parts. It would be really nice to add all that sort of stuff. Okay, so back to the task list. We have quality of life interactions, so a couple of keybinds to manage our quality of life here. So as we're using the system, it's like press shift to do such and such an action when you're clicking on an object. Would just like fast swap it like you see in a lot of inventories, like traditional inventories on RPGs. So. Okay. Back to our scene. We want to implement quickly throwing this to our backpack. The way that we could do this is if we hold shift while we're clicking. So in order to test that, possibly, might get a little bit spicy. On actor clicked, we would need to know if we're pressing shift. Is key held? Is an input key down? Is the shift key down for the player control? And if it isn't, then we're just going to hold this. And if it is, then we're going to auto pickup. Okay, so in this function, we're going to find the backpack. We're going to get player controller. We're going to get that pawn. Roll pawn. We're going to cast that to episode 2. We're going to then get the backpack. We're then going to get the child actor of that backpack component, because it is just a child actor component. We're going to cast that to backpack. We're then going to get components of class. Vector, which is the slots. So we're going to pass these two slots. In fact, what we could do is we could just say, does this one have a slotted item? And if it does not, then we will cast it to a slot. We will cast it to I need to get the child actor here. Almost messed that bit up. Okay, so does the child actor, which is the slot, have an item? And if it doesn't, then we will cast this to a slot. And we set this item to self. Now, one thing I've realized is the only way so far that an item will assume the correct state is if I drop it with my mouse, because onDropped holds all of the functionality to ensure that this is in a state. So what I want to do is actually move all the functionality into a better format that works just in a better order of operations, I suppose. Making a replicated game actually forces you to think about this a little bit more logically, which is interesting. So I don't really want to bloat the slot with management of the state of the item. I want the item to have a state. And so what we'll call this is just current slot. We do also now have pointers going both ways, like the slot knows its item and the item knows its slot, but maybe that's not too bad. What I would do is I would have a function called setSlot, and in here we would do everything. Auto pickup, onDropped, we would move this, and we would call setSlot, and that becomes the slot. A new slot for this input. we tell that slot that it has now got an item. And we set up the state of this actor. We can also, if this is invalid and this no longer has a slot, then maybe we would do something else. Like auto dropping, for example, could be the case. In our auto pickup, what we would therefore do is we would actually just call set slot. So now that's fine. We would also return here because we're done. We found a valid slot. If we go through and everything has a slotted item and we get to the end, we want to basically pop up a message. So I'll just go print string for now that says nope. I'll do. So let's hit play. Ah, yes. So it did work. They are slotting. The problem is that it's not moving, obviously, to the location that I want it to be in. So during an auto pickup, I also need to play a timeline. One thing I've realized as well is I might not be disabling tick at the right times. No, because when we set the slot, we set the actor to no longer tick. Okay, so where was I? I need a timeline. I had a timeline, so move to slot, we'll call this. We'll just add an alpha float track in here. Essentially, it'll just go from 0 to 1. Do with these is make them auto, which gives them a bit of a curve, so it's a little bit of a smoothing out. And during the update of this, we're going to set the actor's transform, basically set transform, actor transform, and we can do an alpha or alert between the get actor transform and the transform of the current slot. And this is the alpha. So when we auto pick up, we would get the move to slot timeline. Move to slot, and we would play from start. So it shouldn't matter if I'm running, it will actually still work. Just connect to my backpack, which is nice. So there you go. That's like most of the sort of preliminary mechanics of this Diegetic UI. And I think we would want to add highlights around these objects. Would be quite nice. Ah, yes, let's actually make more items and then test. Yeah, so no. So for that, what I would maybe like to do is some kind of UI, a meta space UI. It's like it's in the world. It's not really a world element, but it's like a, what do you say? Part of the UI. Okay. So I'm going to use a widget component for that. We've got the inventory. Sure, we'll do a quick widget here that just says User widget is just UMG underscore backpack full. Or backpack notify, we could call it. And then as we summon this, we could feed it with some text and some imagery if we wanted. So we'll go with a horizontal box. Desired size. We'll do a border around that. Wrap with the border. Let's make this have some padding. Let's add some text. Text, please. We'll add some text to this. It will be. Let's go with. Never use true black. That's always a faux pas. So let's add a black text to that. Let's just call this backpack full by default. I'm not sure. I think what I'll do is let's make this justified. Let's go upper. Give this a little bit more padding. That's me. Go 5 on there. We've got 10 on there. Let's go 10. I actually always like to have more on the left and right. Don't know, always just feels better. We probably want some kind of element to display that it's actually relative to the backpack. So I'm gonna wrap this with an overlay. I'm gonna create a basic image. Push this to the right in the middle. I'm actually gonna push it out to the side. Actually, no, this isn't gonna work because it's a 3D element. So let's go and wrap this. In fact, we're already in a horizontal box. So let's just add, oh no, that's not gonna work. Let's replace this with a horizontal box. So now you have this image, which will be center aligned like so. We'll just have a couple of units. So that's going to be the thing that sort of connects us to the backpack there. And then I think we probably want an image in here just to display like, hey, there's a problem. So we'll have this on this side. Should definitely move all of the padding to the horizontal box. We'll add some padding to the right of this element. I'm gonna have this be red. I don't actually know if I have any decent images for this. Use this bad. Backpack full. That works. Maybe we could play a sound for this as well. But for now, let's just go back to the backpack. Let's add a... Let's move it maybe... Go top, go middle. Let's go middle. Our widget that we made, the backpack notify, it's going to be facing the screen. It's going to draw it desired size. The pivot is X and Y, so we want it to pivot from the right hand side in the middle, so it's going to push it off to the left. And let's just see how that looks when we hit play. Yeah, so that's cool. Oh. Less cool. Less cool when it completely overlaps the entire backpack. What could I do about that? I could move it so it's always oriented to the leftmost side of the backpack, but that means it's moving around on the screen all the time. So what we'll do, just to make our lives quicker and easier, is I'll replace this, replace with a vertical box. I'll make this image thin and tall. the backpack, it'll actually go up here. It'll be 0.51. But that's what happens when I try and pick up something from here when the backpack is full. So the next thing to do is kill this widget, make a new function called comes in with some text, and ideally an image, or we might hold this in a data table that can be easily localized, but in this case let's just do it quick. We're going to create a widget. It's going to be backpack notify. Make this to a variable. If this is not valid, we'll create one, but if we already have one, then we don't need to do it again. In the backpack notify, let's create a function. Set text. Let's get this text here. Variable text block. Title. Text of this. Back to the backpack. Text here. We have text, so bring that in, get text. And then if this was already valid, then we just call set text. And the next thing that we do is we get this widget and we set the widget. So we use backpack notify widget as the reference. And this just sets it up to here. And next thing we would do is we just have some sort of latent custom event, close notify. Would ask if this is still valid. We would run a function here, it's like closed. The backpack, we would just close this notify. The reason I do that here is because now I can do whatever I want with this, which in this case is going to be an animation called fade. We're going to grab this vertical box and we're just going to do something really simple. We're going to grab the X and we're just going to bring that scale right down to 0. So it just collapses. Before it gets to here, where everything is a little bit crunched, we're also going to grab the opacity of this element. And we're going to fade that out to 0 before we get anywhere. That looks quite nice. And the annoying thing with animations is now all of that information is held in memory, so I need to go and reset them all so I can actually see my widget. I think it was the horizontal box I animated, yeah. Okay. And so in my graph, I now have a new animation. I'll play that. And whenever we set text, we need to play that animation, or we need to reverse it, really. Reverse animation. Play animation reverse. To enclose is we'll play animation forward. See how that feels. And next thing what we'll do so we have a backpack, we have a backpack notify, we can set all these widgets. We want to set a timer by an event. We'll do this on both paths. Create the event and we'll just close the notify. And this will be, say, 3 seconds. Make this to a variable. Close notify timer. We'll add some outlines as well in a moment. We'll get that feeling good as well. So hit play here. Oh, it needs to be full in order to check this. Okay, so this says no. So what we do So we get this backpack. We say notify, backpack notify, backpack. So every time I click this, it does it again. If I wait long enough for it to close, okay, it reopens like halfway through, which is nice. Oop, something strange happened there. That. So when we're auto picking these assets, I think on dropped does firstly it disables the input, which we will now move. Although we could do an on function, but it's okay. So if we set the slot, we also need to disable the input. And secondly, we will also need to disable physics, because physics hasn't been disabled in this scenario. Although physics wasn't enabled to begin with, but it's always safe to turn it off. So let's just make sure it's turned off. Ensure the state that we want. I think what happened was I was like, it had velocity. Interesting that it really doesn't like being thrown. Right at myself, it also kind of hurts. Yeah. So I think what happened was the physics was still going, and so it would attach and then just like fly off. So that's all good. I'm going to go and grab a outline from a project of mine if I can find it. So, gosh, where did I put it? It's in my primers. Content. This one. Okay. I'm just gonna pop this in. Just saves me creating yet another outline. Always creating outlines. Project are we in right now? UI stream. Okay, so we've got content. New folder. The outline in there. Now we have this outline asset. Let's save all this and I'll go show you what this is. So wait for the shaders to compile. In the project settings, I should really put this in a big text description at the top here. But essentially, we need enabled stencils. So you can see here we have different stencil colored outlines. So that's just neat. It's just handy. So what we can do is we can take this post-process, or at least the material. Copy that. The way this works is we just enable the custom depth on it and we give it a value of 0, like to 3, 2, whatever, 4 in this one's case. Okay, so let's go back to our level. Do we have a post process? We do. And then we just go to materials, paste that in. Now, in our item, we can do an event graph, we can do event hover, or event mouse, enter. Yeah, so actor begin cursor over, actor end cursor over. We would get primitives, or get components by class. We would just get the primitives. For each of these, we would set depth, set render custom depth to true. When it's hovered, and false when it's not hovered. And that should set us up for outputs. Have a look if that's even triggering. But I don't think it's triggering because my cursor isn't shown. Yeah. That's not cool. Go and have a look at what PC, and if we turned this back on, for example, would we get those highlights? No, we still wouldn't. Interesting. Let's have a look at Google quickly. UE5. What's it called? Actor begin cursor over. Enable mouse over events. That would make sense. So in the class default, we had enable click events. We also want to enable mouse over events. There we go. There you go. Now you get these highlights when you grab these things. We can't mouse over it when it's attached because we disabled the collision. Was that smart? So it's a good question to ask every now and then. You know, was that smart? Was that a smart choice? What we did is when we pick up one of these items and we put it in our backpack, we disable collision on it because we don't want to run around with an item on our backpack that would mess with our movement. But we could hit it with visibility at minimum. Like maybe it would be nice to at least hit it with visibility. And then you actually click on the slot to pick it back off. Which means that if you're here and you click, you can't actually click it. Let's try making it visible to visibility trace and, well, the mouse. So we've got on dropped, we enable physics and we disable this. We've got slotted, which is the case where this mouse. So we set the slot, and I think what we want to do is set set collision enable. The collider root. Very annoying. Set response to all channels. Oh, this is going to mess things up. Because, wait, do I have a... I need to have profiles again. We spoke about this earlier, so... profile name. We've got a profile name here that's block all dynamic. Okay, next up, what do we have? We also have, well, we'll just make a new one that's just called go to our project settings, go to our collisions, open up our presets. Again, you have to grab this, open it out, and now you can scroll to the bottom. We've got slot. Now we've got slotted item. It's query, nothing, visibility only. It's world static, sure. So when we don't mind about disabling collision anymore, actually. We do. So we want to become slotted in this case, and then when we get held, we set simulate physics, we disable the actor's collision. Disable collision if held makes sense. If we drop it, it's slotted. Okay, if it's this, it needs to be here before we simulate physics, otherwise we'll get an error because it will be like the current design doesn't allow that. We've got the set slot here. We need to enable set actor enable collisions. Enable collision to allow mouse over. Okay. See how that's going. That's cool. Then we can click it again. So one thing that we can fix now is that when we set held, we just grab it and we just empty the current slot. We don't do anything else with the current slot. So for the current slot here, I actually just want to set current slot, set slot to null. What this is going to allow me to do is down here, just clear out that slot's info. We need to do before we do anything is actually compare that. So if this is valid, then we'll set the slot. Well, before we do anything, we basically need to ask if there was a current slot. Did I have a slot? And if I did have a slot, set slotted item to null. And then, if the new slot is valid, then we'll set it up. What was happening was I could slot an item and then try and take the item. Ultimately break set slotted item such. Okay, so pick up the item. Cool. If I grab the item from here, now I'll drop something back in there, so that's cool. Okay. And we've got some highlights going on, which just helps with readability. Oh, I had two items in there. Two items in there as well. Okay, we'll debug that. So what's happening? What's the repro step? Drop an item? No. If I grab this item and then drop it back there. Nope. I pull the item. Ah, did you see that one at the bottom there? Why would that happen? We've got a series of conflicting events. Oh, hello. What's going on there? Access none trying to read the slide item from attach actor to actor in set slide item. Yeah, makes sense because we were setting it to null. This is just clearing it so that we know the slot is empty. Interested in how an earlier slot is being affected by my mouse clicks. So let's go back through the code. I'm just going to clean it up. What time are we at? We've got like 50 minutes until midday at my end. So we'll play for another 50 minutes, clean it up a little bit further. Ooh. Don't care about the backpack. Don't care about the notify. Notify was cool, but we're done with it. So we've got a slot and an item. Those are the two pieces of code that run this whole system. The way that we want to run this system is we want the item to hold its state. And the slot to hold its state separately. And there are like 3 states that an item can be in. It can be slotted, on the ground, or held. So let's start there. Start cleaning up the room. And then we'll fix the bugs as we come to them. Whilst cleaning. Got update position, that's all good. Pick the actor. As long as you're not holding left shift. So this is auto pick, grab and drop. So when we auto pick, we go and find an element in a backpack and we set a slot, and then we play the animation to move it to the slot. And when we set a slot, we make sure that if we already had a slot, we can now shift and click on those items in the backpack now. So we just clear it. Make sure that that slot's available because it got picked. Oh yeah, good point actually. Let's try that. So we have 2 items. Press shift click on this one. Yeah, it goes to the next available slot, which, well, in order of whatever it picks up those slots, I suppose. Okay, cool. That's funny. Kind of strange behavior. How did you get into that state? 1. 1, 2. a really nice easy repro. Just drop it on and then shift click. Drop it on. Put it on. Shift click. Really change the color block to make it obvious. I mean, there is an obvious element, which is the fact that there's a thing attached to it. I need to have a brain break because I am just going in circles. So sometimes that's important. I'm going to take a quick break. I'm going to grab myself more grog and then I'll be back. Okay, I'm back. Let's take a holistic view at this. We have a slot, we have an item, we have a couple of functionalities. We have the ability to pick up the item with the mouse, move it around, drop it onto a slot, set the slot. We have the ability to shift click on an item and set a slot. So let's make sure that that's working first. We have the ability to pick up an item from a slot, which just picks it up again and should empty the slot. And we have a slot that just knows about the item that's in it to inform us whether it's filled or not. So let's just go through one step at a time. So if we click on an actor and we're holding the left shift button, we're going to auto pickup, which means we're going to go through the backpack, find an empty slot, and we're going to set our item to be slotted. And so we call set slot on the item. Now, is that smart? Let's ask the question, is that a smart thing to do? Because it could either be on the item where we set the slot, or we could tell the slot itself to take an item. If we were to put the functionality onto the slot itself, it would in turn have to edit properties of the item, such as whether it's colliding and various other parameters that we would really want to be able to control from the item, because we may want to iterate on what happens when it has become slotted. We also play this animation because in this case we're animating from somewhere in the world. So the first thing that we do, in the event that we're already slotted, we clear that slot. Then we attach to the new slot. If the new slot's valid, we set the current slot, we set the slotted item of that slot to ourselves. We no longer tick. We're allowed to collide for mouse over purposes. We ensure that we disable any input, which in this case, with the case that we're in, we could have set slot from holding the item, which means that we had input enabled. And so we definitely need to make sure that we're disabling the input, so that's fine. We no longer want to simulate physics because we're attaching to something. And we want to become the profile. And so this is what allows highlight, or mouse highlight, I should say. Okay. That's one situation. Let's go back. The other situation is that we hold the item. And I think, yeah, this is fine. So if we click on the item, but we don't hold shift, now we're holding it. So we're holding the item, get held and dropped here, as this is called when we drop it. Sometimes toggles aren't the best functions, like setters like this. Okay, so for the case that it can lead to messy code. So right here, we're going to say that we have been held. We're enabling inputs, and so this allows the left mouse release to trigger. We're no longer colliding. We don't want to like hit things in the world. We're no longer simulating because we may have been rolling around the world and now we're holding it. we want to enable tick, so this allows insert movement to the mouse location. We want to detach from any actor that we were attached to, and we want to set our slot to false. So if we had a current slot when we grabbed this item, we're going to set the slotted item for that slot to nothing. So increase the slot. Fills the slot. That's good. So that's another scenario, which is holding it. Now, when we're no longer holding it and we're dropped, one of the things that we do is we check if there is a slot underneath the mouse. So let's comment this up. Slot under mouse. When we look at this slot, if there is a slotted item, then we just enable physics. We drop this item, like fully. Set the collisions up or blocking things, because we're then going to enable physics and we're going to set the tick to false. One thing that we haven't done here is disable input. So what that means is that we could actually trigger this multiple times. But I think it is still the case that any time that we drop an item, we still need to disable input anytime we drop it. Still got input and buttons. And I think that's going to resolve an issue that we had before I went on the break. So now, we can click and grab all of these items, we get backpack full, we can drop items off, we can throw items back on. We can't move any of these items to the backpack anymore. We can move them around, which is pretty funny. Cool, so we're in a place now where it's no longer bugged. When we first pick up this item, it's hovering the slot. We get this thing where it can actually go behind the player, which is fine. But interestingly, we're highlighting the other objects whilst we're holding this object, which is not an interaction that we actually want to see. We're also getting a lot of ugly movements as we're hovering these assets. Like if we're hovering it on the tip, it's a nice, like, you cannot do that interaction kind of feeling. But if we're hovering over any of these surfaces around the asset, we end up with some sort of dodgy vibes. So one thing I want to do to clean that up is go into the update position function. And instead of doing a line trace, we're actually going to say you're hovering over a slot that's filled. So the target position location is scale. We're going to zero out the rotation. We're going to reset the scale. And we're going to set the target position to this actor's location. Plus I think it's going to be the UG vector multiplied by a float. This is just like cleaning up a little feeling of UX here. So we're going to do this, and then the sequence is going to take over. It's going to come down here. It's going to lerp us to those nice positions. So this should just feel a little bit nicer. Let's say I have a bunch of items in my backpack. I go and hover over any of these. We get this kind of association that this is not allowed. Also, I don't really want to highlight the asset because it looks like I can click it, which isn't necessarily true in those moments. So how would I manage that? So in the item we have a begin cursor over event. We have no way of knowing if the player is currently holding an item. Although we could say the player's left mouse button is down, then we're not allowed to do that. So we're allowed to do this if the player's left mouse button is not down. I'll clean up that UX a little bit. We come over here. Yeah, these are no longer hovering because we're holding down the mouse button, which if I'm holding it down already, yeah, it doesn't let you do anything. Let go. Okay. Not ideal. It is on begin. What could we do here? There's a non-ideal scenario here where I have a bunch of items. I'm holding down my left mouse button and then I hover over this and it's like, well, it's not clickable. And then I let go of the mouse, it's still not clickable until I re-hover it. And so what I think we want to do is create a custom event, set highlighted, the branch, or set highlight. We will move this function here, and we'll just call it like this. This sets the highlight to true or false. Here we can set the highlight to true. Here we can set the highlight to false. This now means, because it's a function or an event, we can call it from somewhere else. And so when the left mouse button is released, or in this case, when the mouse has been released over the actor, we could set the highlight to true. That works. Come over here, drop the item. Cool. So that's fixed that issue. The idea there was just, well, the mouse is there, so we're about to release our mouse over the top of this actor. We could then highlight it because we know the mouse doesn't have anything held. Okay, so where are we at? We're able to run around, we're able to pick up these items, grab an item, this, slot it in. Obviously it's a little bit difficult if I'm running. Ah, that's interesting. Right, so got another issue here. It's trying to reach the position but I'm moving. So then when I let go, if I actually do it correctly, it snaps. Let's try and get this to happen. Yeah. So we've got this issue. So we actually need to move to, we always need to move to slot anytime that we set the slot, we should definitely move to the slot. And that should fix that issue. Magnet. Another thing I would like to do is if I shift click it whilst it's on my backpack, I'm going to assume that means that you want to drop it. So when we shift click, we'll call this auto pickup or drop. We'll first branch and ask if, or rather we'll ask if there is a current slot. And if there isn't a current slot, we'll wrap this with find and attach to a slot or drop. Sorry, or deny, I suppose it is. If there is a current slot, we want to essentially unslot. We want to set the slot to false, which we do not have an event for attached to new slot or drop, essentially. So we want to set the slot to false. It empties the slot. It then comes down here, and then so this is drop with physics. So if we set the slot to null, we want to make sure that this actor is correctly dropped. So we would want to disable any input. We do have a slot hovered. It does have an item attached. Yeah, this is a bit strange. I need to clean up these functions because they're not verbose enough. They are becoming like a rat's nest of different events. So we really need some functions that are just like clearer. Setting a slot should be explicit to setting a slot. Clearing a slot should be something, possibly. Dropping an drop item should just enable physics and drop the item and empty any slot that it's in. So here, for example, instead of on held, we have this set held function. So it's like, is it held? What I would, I guess, prefer to do is just call it hold item and drop item. And instead of having this kind of like Boolean operation here, we would just say, hey, hold item. Here we would just drop it. Or in fact, we wouldn't call this drop item, we would call this release item. And in the release item function, we want to test whether there was a hit. We're going to release an item, dropping it. This drop function, drop item, this should be for enabling physics, like and only enabling physics. It should be more precise code. Move this out of the way. More expected actions. So definitely want to do that. We want to enable the physics. That's what happens when we drop an item. We hold an item. We want to disable physics and collision and follow. Oops. That's what happens when we follow. Close everything out. So we've got a hold item. This needs to be a release item. This is going to determine, check for slot under mouse. If there is a slot under the mouse that has an available, that's not filled, then we will set slot. If we have released the item and there isn't something under the mouse, then we're going to drop the item, which enables physics. If the only thing that can hit on the inventories channel is the slot, so if there is a slot there but it has an item, we're also going to drop the item. This now allows us to say that if we shift click an item and we already have a slot, that we can set the slot to false, which will in turn drop the item. Check that everything is working as expected with that. So we can hold the item, please. Ah, yes, we do need it to be held. Determines if the update function does something, so as long as it's held. When we release the item, we are no longer held. Did I did tick this. Did tick it. But we dropped the item again. Okay, so let's go back to this. I want to hold an item. I should set my slot to false. Or to null, I should say. This should probably be the first thing that we do. We just want to clear the slot that we have. So in turn, what that's going to do is say if we have a slot, clear it. And so we should make a function that's just called clear slot. Let's start categorizing these functions. Got set slot. There's any active slot. Plotted, clear that slot. It's all good. That's all that does. Cleaning up the functionality, basically. Hold an item. We want to clear a slot. And then we want to hold the item. That's a little bit cleaner. One thing that this is just a preference, but in the editor preferences, I do like to have my grid lines be colored, so it just makes it easier to align to the grid. You'll see now that these lines in the back are edited. I may have crashed the engine. No, we're good. Okay, so we clear the slot, we do some other things. Cool. Pick this up, can drop it, move it around. If I shift click it, I get it to go to a slot, I can pick it up, put it in another slot. Now when I shift click it, oh, now I can't shift click these guys. Interesting. Also, they didn't reassume their original scale. I can shift click on it. It is currently in a certain state, which I am now going to go and investigate. If I click on here, Drop. Ah, right, yes. Wrong function. So we should just clear slot anytime. This here. Auto pick up or drop. Have a look. If there is a slot, we should clear. And we should drop the guy. Which I think actually closed the slot. Anyway. No, it doesn't. That's fine. I'm going to make some assumptions there. This is going to drop the item from the backpack. This is going to find an item space. So that's fine. We auto pick up, and then we auto drop. You can see how it's actually still small. So when we drop an item, because it can be dropped from a backpack, it should reassume its original scale. So what I'm going to do is say the only time that could happen is if you had a slot. So I'm going to set the scale 3D to 1 here. This is the only time when it has a scale is when it has a slot. So it's been scaled down here, and then it pops off. So that's pretty cool. One. Okay, so I still can't click on these guys. So let's go find out why. Event graph, auto pick up or drop. Click on that. So stepping through blueprints like this helps a lot for the debugging. If I have a current slot, I should clear the slot. Oh, right, yeah. So of course we don't actually clear the slot. We empty the slot on the other end, but we never reset this to null. So that would be smart. One, two, three. Okay. So it's looking pretty good. Although every time I click this, it reopens the UI. So I wanted to go look at that one more time. I'm going to call this open. And we're going to swap all of these variables around. Oh, sorry, these timelines around. Now, when we close, we want to reverse this. And when we set the text, we want to play it forward. By default, it's already open. It bothers me so much. Because it's supposed to play it relative to its current state. Which, I guess, if I go look at the designer, its current state is here, and then it opens. But then it's open, and if I click it again, it should just play forward. I mean, what if I just say forward? Play animation forward. Yeah, no. Doesn't make any sense. I don't want it to do that every single time. It should just play forward from its current position. Okay. It doesn't care that it's already open. So what we'll do is we'll just say, is it open? Be open. Is it open? And if it's not open, now we are open. When we close, we're no longer open. And now I can shift click these and nothing happens. As soon as it starts playing back in the other direction, reopen it again. Cool. So there's some issues with the item, which I'm going to change on the collider route. It's intersecting with the camera. Oh, I had yeah, so you should be slot. No, you shouldn't. Okay, let's just go. Let's go block all dynamic. Problem with that is it intersects with the camera. Let's go make a new collision channel. Project settings. Or collision preset. Call it new. Just call it item. Or we'll call it yeah, item. It's like a non-slotted item. As collision enabled, it's a dynamic object because it moves around the world. It does not collide with the camera. And so now, do is compile this, go away and back again. We have item. And so there is a profile setting in here. I'll just call it item. I can't remember the exact issue I was having there. Oh yeah, it was colliding with the camera, right? So I'd get it around here somewhere and my camera would flip out. This is nice. Okay. Very cool. So here's all the things that we did. That made my character turn. Which is also not ideal. So before we talk about everything that we did in this episode, I'm going to, when we clear this slot, I'm gonna add an offset in world by the up vector. The vector multiplied by like 20 or something, just so it's not touching me. Which isn't a great way to do this. Should only do this behavior when we're auto-clicking. So here, we drop this item. Also just want to move it. There we go. Awesome. So that's that bit cleaned up. Interesting, there's a case here where it's just flying off into the world. I don't think that that's 0. Ah, we do have some errors. So there's an issue where when we shift click and it releases the object from the backpack, it can clip into our character and fly off into the world. And so what we might want to do is when we auto drop this item, we have like a temporary like collision grace. We may also just want to move the actor and then drop it. Maybe that'll fix the problem. Yeah, this is a little bit nicer. Basically, it stops it from. I mean, you can still kick them around. In fact, we can solve that by telling this item that it cannot be walked on. On the collision here, can character step on this? Nope. Then we could go to our character. There's a property for being able to kick physics objects around. Called like enable physics interaction here. Yeah, I don't really want that on. And additionally, I'll reset that one-way interaction because I'm unsure what that does. I mean, it says inside the tooltip, but also that click where it lifts it off the ground so much, and if you let go during that, it like bounces. is a bit strange. It's pretty fun. I mean, I'm having fun just clicking it. Okay, so here's everything that we did. Starting from scratch. We created a element that follows the mouse around the screen and turns off the circle when we're hovering on surfaces and interrupts the sphere that represents the mouse location when we go around corners, so it's not too snappy. That feels quite nice. We made a bunch of slots at the beginning of the episode where we angled them in various directions so that we could see that this dragging system worked, and so we can actually put more slots into the scene as well. We can just put slots around wherever we want. So you could have them on your arms, you could have them in the world as containers. Then we can actually take these as well. We added a highlight so that we could see all of these interactions. It's like prompting us that we can do an interaction. We added a backpack full if you try to auto pick up one of these. We made sure that when you're hovering over these elements that we're not getting a highlight on them that looks like they're interactable even though your mouse is down. We added it so that when you release your mouse you can still pick them up. There's some scaling involved, so the items on your backpack are actually scaled to the actor. So what I could do as an example of that is I could increase the size of this, pick this up. Oh, it's actually gone back to 0 scale. Well, theoretically, there's something there. We'd probably need some variables to control how much it scales down when it goes onto the object, because we are going to inherit the scaling of this actor. We added some shift-click quality of life updates, so that we can pop them off and add them to us anytime. We solved some issues when we're running and we attach an object, which is actually considerably difficult. Might need to update that. But yeah, they were hovering off originally. Yeah, and then we set up the backpack. Got some issues here where they seem to be retaining physics forces. So it's like a set linear velocity, maybe. Let me just reset velocities. Set physics. See if we can reproduce this as well. In fact, let's try and reproduce it first. So if I grab an item and then I'm running and I click it on and then I shift click to drop it off, does it just go crazy? No? So there we had an issue. So what I want to do is set linear velocity. Set for angular physics velocity to 0. That needs to happen when we drop and simulate the physics, or at least when we auto drop it. In particular, because we do want it to be throwable with the mouse. So if I pick up this object and then flick it with the mouse, it should do exactly that. But when we slot it to our suit and then run along, we don't want it jumping up into the sky. So that's much better. Yeah, and we fixed a bunch of bugs. So that was cool. If anyone's got any questions or wants a recap video of sort of the highlights of this stream, please let me know in the comments. Hit subscribe, follow along. I'll be doing these every Tuesday. So next week we might do like a map UI. We might do something from a TV show. If there are suggestions, I will take them and prioritize those suggestions to engage with the community more directly, rather than just doing what I want to do. So I'm open to those suggestions. Please comment and let us know. In the meantime, yeah, we have a little Astroneer backpack, which is pretty cool. You're getting the occasional flick when, under some circumstance, one thing you could do is just move it further off the character. Save yourself getting collisions. I wonder what's going on there, because yeah, it's like the physics object hits my character and moves my capsule. And then sometimes as well, we just don't get any velocity from the mouse movement. Why are physics objects forcing me to move? What I'm going to do is I'm going to add some drag to this physics object. The linear damping, go 0.5, 0.2. We will re-enable the ability for physics interaction on this character. Won't scale the push force. This collider here will do interaction one way. So what this says is, if it's true, the body will treat bodies that don't have this flag as infinite mass. So we'll see what that does. I don't want the character to step on this. I think that's what's causing you. Like twisting my character capsule. Let's have a look at Google for that. Let's try project settings. Collision. Resets. So we will go down to item, which is the floor item. let's... see, it's just pawn. Cancel. The mesh... Character mesh. Character mesh does not interact with... It does interact with physics bodies, doesn't interact with pawn, which is itself. Physics body interact with everything. And it has the object type of physics body. Maybe that would help. Yeah, so now it's behaving. Oh, it's not. You'll step on it and get affected by it. I do want to be able to kick them. My mesh, yeah, and what about my capsule? Does that interact with physics bodies? It does. What if I edited pawn to not interact with physics bodies, which is my capsule, and just allow my characters, like bones, to interact with them? Oh. Yeah, well, now I can just walk through them. Not even my feet are interacting with it. Okay. Is it the mesh that need to it? Maybe it was the one-way setup on here. Yeah, so I find this interesting. Like, the thing on the floor is... I mean, we should just enable physics on this by default. Which we can't. Why not? Because it doesn't have a mesh. Funny. Okay, well then I guess... I mean, this won't work in a replicated scenario again, but let's just drop by. Yeah. It's... Oh. No, it's a custom preset item. It's a physics body that interacts with pawn channel. My third person character is a mesh. Character mesh. It's a pawn. Interacts with the physics channel. Blocks physics bodies. Oh, but it's query only. Huh. Then that won't work. So maybe, just maybe, I mean, this could really mess things up. This could really mess things up, but we'll give it a go. Preset, character mesh. We want this to have collision. There we go. So now I should never get turned because my capsule isn't interacting with them, but my feet do. So that's pretty cool. Okay, that resolves all the bugs. I'm going to go and remove all the prints. These, in fact, we don't even call this set held function anymore, if I remember correctly. Yeah. Function. Oh, you are called. Very nice. Okay. That's that cleaned up. Is there a print in here? BP slot found. There is overlap event somewhere. The inventory trace. So funny, I actually don't need this function at all. Cool. Awesome. Thanks for watching, anyone who's in the chat right now. I'm going to call it there. 3 hours 30 is a lot of time. We actually managed to get the core of it done in the first hour, and then subsequently spent 2 hours just adding polish to it, and outlines and animation, quality of life features for the subsequent 2 hours. So what I'll do is more than likely cut this into like 3 episodes. And yeah, see you another time. Thanks for watching. If you've got any questions, ask them in the chat. I'll hang around for a little bit while the ending stream bit's on. Cheers.